I know the world rarely slows down for stories like this. You may have paused here by accident, or maybe not. So, if you're still here, even just for a moment, thank you. I'm not telling this to seek justice. I'm telling it as someone who once sat quietly at the edge of their own family and finally stood up. If you've ever felt invisible, I hope somewhere in this, you'll find a small reminder that silence doesn't mean you were wrong. And if anything in here stays with you, just leave a small sign, a soft touch on the like button, to let me know someone else knows the feeling. They called it a family vision gathering, but it was anything but warm. Crystal chandeliers flickered over the long mahogany table, set for 30. Polished glasses, perfect linen. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. Ava laughing at the head of the table like she owned the air in the room. Maybe she did. I took a seat near the far end, unnoticed. They hadn't assigned me a name card. I brought my own chair from the hallway. Then came the clink of silver against crystal. My father stood, tall, pressed suit, that false proud smile he always wore in public. Thank you all for coming. As we begin the transition of the Whitmore estate and trust into its next chapter. I leaned forward slightly, my breath slow, careful. We are proud to announce that Ava will serve as the new figurehead of the Whitmore Foundation. The fortune and assets will transfer under her leadership, as per our current advisory board's unanimous recommendation. I didn't move, didn't blink. The air in the room shifted like glass about to crack. My name wasn't said, not once. I looked down at my hands. They were steady, but cold. My jaw didn't tremble. My throat didn't tighten. But something inside me collapsed. I heard Ava giggle softly. Thank you, Uncle Charles. I'll do you proud. I wanted to scream. But instead, I stared at the table's reflection. 30 plates, 30 names. One ghost, mine. Beside me, someone cleared their throat. I turned slightly. It was Mr. Ellis, the old groundskeeper. Nearly 80 now, with tremoring hands and soft parchment skin. I was asked to give this to you, he whispered, pressing a worn envelope into my palm. He said, when this day comes, you'd need it. I looked at the handwriting. It was my grandfather's. Sharp, blocky cursive I knew from every birthday card, until they stopped. No one saw. No one cared. But something shifted then. I didn't stand. I didn't speak. I just held the envelope tightly under the tablecloth. And for the first time in years, I felt the beginning of a tremor, not from fear, but from awakening. I remember the first time I realized I wasn't one of them. It was at Ava's 6th birthday. There was a petting zoo, a live harpist, and a pony dressed in pink ribbons. She wore a tiara. I handed her a homemade card I'd spent hours coloring. She looked at it and said, "Why didn't you buy one like everyone else?" She tossed it to the side. No one said anything. I was 7. That day stuck to me like wet paint. Every year after, the gap widened. Ava got ballet. I got public school. She got praised for singing Twinkle Twinkle. I won a regional science fair, and Mom barely looked up from her phone. "Oh, honey, don't be showy," she said. "Let Ava have her moment." Ava always had her moment. When Grandpa was alive, he was the only one who really saw me. He asked about my projects, my circuits, my notebooks. He gave me a soldering kit once and said, "Build your own stars, Maya." I still have it. It never worked, but I kept it anyway. After he died, the last thread that connected me to this family quietly snapped. Mom started saying things like, "You've always been so self-sufficient, Maya. Ava needs more support." Or, "You've got that lone wolf thing, just like your father's side." She meant it as an insult. The dinners became more like exhibitions. Ava in pearls. Me in the dress I bought secondhand. I would bring books. She brought wine. Once, I painted a small landscape of Grandpa's cabin for Christmas. Every window lit, stars in the sky. I framed it myself. Gave it to Mom. She smiled tightly and said, "Maybe next year, just gift cards, okay?" Later, I saw it in the garage, face down, covered in dust. It wasn't hatred. It was absence, the kind that erases you, piece by piece, until even you begin to wonder if you matter. That night, after the announcement, I held the envelope under my pillow. Did he know this would happen? Why now? Why me? I ran my fingers over the seal, his wax crest, the Whitmore W. So old-fashioned. So him. I didn't open it yet, not because I was scared of what was inside, but because, for the first time in a long time, someone had given me something meant only for me, and I wasn't ready to lose that feeling just yet. I didn't sleep. Not fully. Just drifted in and out between memories and questions. By morning, I was standing barefoot on the tiled kitchen floor of my apartment, envelope still sealed, fingers numb from holding it too tightly. Something didn't add up. Not just the inheritance. Not just the favoritism. It was older than that. 2 years ago, Aunt Lara, never one to filter her thoughts, had made a strange comment at Thanksgiving. "You didn't get that thing your grandfather left? Are you sure?" I remember blinking at her. "What thing?" She waved it off with a sip of wine. "Huh, I must have been mistaken." At the time, I assumed she'd had too much Chardonnay. Now, I wasn't so sure. And then there was the hospice nurse, a woman named Junie who'd cared for Grandpa in his last months. She once pulled me aside in the hallway, her voice soft. "He talked about you a lot, said you were his true legacy." It caught me off guard. "What did he mean?" I asked. She just smiled. "I don't know, sweetheart, but he made me promise you'd get your books back." Books? No one ever gave me anything. I thought she meant the childhood sketchbooks I'd left in the attic years ago, but those were gone. Now I wondered, was something else meant for me? Something they kept? I started looking through old emails. Messages from Grandpa stopped abruptly 6 months before he died. No explanation. Just silence. I called his number once. It had been disconnected. Dad said, "He's tired. Don't bother him too much." Later, I found out Ava visited him weekly. She posted selfies in his garden. I wasn't invited. That ache of knowing someone might have tried to reach you and never got through, it settled heavy in my stomach. It wasn't just neglect. It was interception. I stood by my window, watching the city wake up. Then I turned back to the envelope. Whatever was in it wasn't a gift. It was a key. I finally opened it. The seal cracked with a dry snap, like a bone breaking. Inside, folded twice, was a thick sheet of paper in my grandfather's unmistakable scrawl. At first, I thought it was just a letter, but then I saw the drawing, a map, not to treasure, not to a vault, but of the house. More specifically, the old study. His study. He'd drawn out the shelf wall in detail, annotated corners, marked loose paneling, and at the top of the page, written in bold ink, "If you're reading this, they've already turned the tables." My throat tightened. He knew. He knew they would do this. Below, his words were careful, precise. "Maya, if this finds you, know that you were never forgotten. You were hidden. Not by me, but by those who feared what I saw in you. This house holds truths behind its polished lies. Look behind the third shelf. Left side, lower panel. Use the small brass key from the armchair base. You'll know it when you feel it. Trust what you find. Trust yourself." Gee. I sank into the kitchen chair, my breath shaky. Not because I was scared, because suddenly, it all made sense. The silences, the half-truths, the things that never arrived. Someone had been cutting me out, not just of dinners and decisions, but out of my own inheritance. And Grandpa had tried to warn me. I drove to the estate that night. The front gate was still programmed with the old code. No one was home. The lights in the East Wing were dark. The rest of the family was at Ava's new donor dinner. Perfect. Inside, the house smelled the same: leather-bound books and aged wood. I walked straight to the study. My heart beat louder with every step. The bookshelves loomed. Third shelf, left side, lower panel. I dropped to my knees. My fingers brushed the grain. There. A faint seam. I pressed lightly. It clicked. The panel shifted open. Inside was a small black box, no bigger than a journal. Velvet lining, and beside it, tucked behind the wood, a tiny brass key. I recognized it. The reading chair. He used to flick it like a nervous tick. I opened the box. Inside, a USB drive, a sealed legal envelope labeled "Secondary Will, Private Copy," and a photo. It was me and Grandpa. I was maybe 10. He had his arm around me, both of us laughing, my science notebook in hand. On the back, he'd written, "To the one who asks why, not just how." My eyes burned, but I didn't cry. I just whispered, "Okay." Game on. They didn't expect me. The next morning, the family gathered at the estate for a private board briefing. Ava's new title was being formally entered into the foundation registry. The lawyers were present. A few trustees, a photographer. No one invited me. I came anyway. I wore the navy blazer Grandpa once said made me look like a commander. Hair pulled back, shoulders set. USB drive and sealed envelope tucked neatly in my side bag. When I stepped through the double glass doors, the room didn't go quiet. It froze. Ava blinked first. "Oh," she said, with that highbrow smile. "Maya, I didn't know you'd be joining us." "I didn't plan to," I replied evenly. "But then I found something, from Grandpa." A silence stretched so thin you could hear the wall clock ticking. My father stood near the fireplace, coffee in hand, his lips pressed into a neutral line, but his eyes narrowed just enough. "What exactly did you find?" he asked. Too casual. I didn't answer. Instead, I turned to the family lawyer, Mr. Bennington. He had known Grandpa for decades. "I believe this belongs with your files," I said, placing the envelope and USB neatly in front of him. He hesitated, looked at the handwriting, the seal, then looked at me. And for a moment, I saw something shift behind his eyes. Recognition and unease. He cleared his throat. "I'd like a few minutes to review this." My mother, already tense, interjected, "Is this necessary? We've already finalized." Mr. Bennington held up a hand. "I think it is." I took a seat in the back corner. Same chair I'd sat in as a child during those rare family meetings where I was seen but not heard. Now I was very much being heard. 15 minutes later, he returned, visibly pale. "This," he said, tapping the envelope, "is a legitimate codicil to the will. It's dated, signed, and witnessed by 2 of our firm's senior partners. It was meant to be held in private, to be revealed under certain conditions." "What conditions?" Ava asked sharply. He turned to me. "If Maya were ever cut from the primary inheritance unjustly." A ripple of tension spread across the room. My father stepped forward. "This is absurd. There was no intent to cut her. She never showed interest in—" Mr. Bennington raised his voice. "Intent or not, Charles, this document overrules the current terms. And the contents of the USB, well, let's just say your father was very clear about who he believed would carry on the legacy." I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just folded my hands and waited, because I wasn't there to reclaim status. I was there to take back what had always been mine. The room shifted from tension to tremor. Mr. Bennington inserted the USB into the boardroom monitor. The screen flickered, then resolved into a grainy video frame. Grandpa, sitting in his old leather chair, the fire glowing behind him. His voice, though aged, was calm, deliberate. "If you're watching this," he began. Then the people I trusted most did what I feared they might. No one breathed. I've seen the way Maya has been treated, quietly, over the years. Passed over, minimized, praised for her independence so they wouldn't have to care for her. I was complicit at times. I let it happen. But not anymore. He looked straight at the camera. Maya, you were not born to follow this family. You were born to change it. I've amended my will accordingly. Ava's mouth tightened. She glanced at my father. He said nothing. The screen faded to black. Mr. Bennington picked up the secondary document. This codicil officially names Maya Whitmore as the primary heir to the Whitmore Foundation Trust and assigns her full executive voting rights over legacy assets. He paused, looked at the others. It's binding. I didn't move, just sat there, quiet, grounded. My fingers rested on the table. The only thing shaking was the truth. Ava leaned forward, voice trembling. But she's never been involved in the family operations. I've managed the donations, the gala, You managed the performance, Bennington cut in. Your grandfather left the vision to Maya. The word landed heavy. Vision, not duty, not tradition. Vision. A few of the board members turned toward me, not with pity, with interest. I took a slow breath. This wasn't about money. It was about being seen and believed. Mom cleared her throat. Maya's always been more solitary. This kind of attention isn't healthy for her. She never asked for, I don't need someone else to speak for me anymore, I said, voice steady. I never did. They went quiet. Not because I was loud, but because there was no air left to cover the lie. My father stood up slowly, as if the weight of what had been revealed was finally pulling on his spine. Maya, he said, trying to level his voice. Let's be reasonable. This isn't what your grandfather would have wanted. Not like this. I tilted my head. You mean not publicly? He didn't answer. Across the room, my mother sat rigid, arms folded tightly. She wouldn't look at me. When I was a child, I'd study her face the way others studied books, searching for warmth between the lines. Now I saw it clearly. She didn't hate me. She just never made room for me. Ava finally broke. This is a mistake, she snapped, standing. I gave everything to this family. I was the one here every holiday, every fundraiser. I was the face of the Whitmore name. You were the mask, Grandma said from the back. Everyone turned. I hadn't even realized she was there. Her voice was low, but sharp enough to slice the tension clean through. She stepped forward, one hand on her cane. I watched you all take from Maya, her credit, her voice, her belonging, and she let you. Because she thought being quiet would earn her love. She turned to me. But love doesn't come from shrinking. Then to my parents. And legacy doesn't come from loudness. It comes from truth. My father looked away. My mother finally met my eyes, but there was nothing behind hers. Just a lifetime of control slipping. Ava's lip trembled. You're choosing her over me? Grandma didn't flinch. Number, I'm not choosing anyone. Your grandfather already did. Silence. I stood. I'm not here to undo what was done, I said, scanning the room. I'm here to stop it from continuing. Then I looked at my mother. You taught me to survive without you, so don't be surprised I learned to live without your approval. She blinked, but said nothing. My father opened his mouth, then closed it. The silence wasn't mine anymore. It was theirs. They didn't follow me out. I walked through the grand foyer alone, heels soft against the marble. The sunlight cut through the stained glass above, casting fractured colors on the floor, like the old church windows Grandpa loved. I paused beneath it. No applause, no confrontation, just stillness. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I simply left. Behind me, voices trying to regroup, rewrite, recover. Ahead of me, air, light, something mine. Outside, the wind brushed my face like a long-forgotten hand. I sat on the stone steps for a while, thought of every version of me that had once waited in this driveway. After piano recitals, after school science fairs, after those cold, silent dinners. All those little Mayas, waiting to be seen. I whispered to them, quietly. You don't have to wait anymore. Later that evening, I turned off my phone, let the silence settle. There were no angry texts, no apology calls, no teary explanations, just absence. And that finally felt honest. Because I didn't need them to love me. I didn't need them to admit they were wrong. I didn't even need them to understand. I just needed to be, without asking permission. The next morning, I emailed Mr. Bennington, confirmed my decision to take over the trust, outlined a vision statement in 2 lines. We build not from old money, but from earned meaning. We serve not image, but impact. I didn't send it for approval. I sent it because it was mine. No boardroom vote, no mother's nod, no father's speech. Just me and the truth that had always waited beneath the floorboards. I reopened the east wing. The one with the rusted shutters and creaking pipes. The one no one had used since Grandpa passed. They called it dead space. I called it potential. We renovated it slowly. No press, no ribbon cutting, just workers, wood, and my own 2 hands sometimes scraping paint off windows older than I was. When it was finished, it wasn't a showroom, it was a space for creation. We named it the Whitmore Workshop, a community design lab open to students and inventors who needed a place to start. No pedigree required, just curiosity. In the center, behind glass, we displayed a small framed notebook. Its cover was faded, bent, corners curled. Inside were sketches from when I was 12, my first prototype for a solar-powered phone case. I had shown it to my parents once. They said, "Cute. But Ava's doing ballet this weekend. Can you keep it down?" Now, it lived in a case, beside a plaque. Every invention begins with a voice someone tried to silence. Some afternoons, I sat in the sunlit corner of the lab, watching the new students build and fumble and laugh. They didn't know my story. Not fully. They just knew this space felt safe. That was enough. Grandma visited once. She brought lemon bars, just like when I was little. We sat outside near the workshop garden, where kids had planted wildflowers and basil. She looked around quietly, then smiled. "He'd be proud, you know." "I know," I said. "I can feel it." She took my hand. Her fingers were softer now, more fragile, but her grip was steady. "He didn't leave you money, Maya," she said. "He left you a mission." And that mission, I finally realized, wasn't about proving anyone wrong. It was about making space. For voices like mine. For every kid who'd ever been told to sit still, stay quiet, or step aside. I wake early now, not because I have to, but because I want to witness the quiet before the world starts moving. The sun crawls through the east window of the cottage I've made my home, just beyond the estate, near the old lake Grandpa used to take me to. Each morning, the light breaks across the wildflowers outside the lab's windows, touching the edges of creation, unfinished, messy, beautiful. Sometimes, I walk barefoot across the grass still wet with dew. Sometimes, I read my grandfather's old notes, still ink-stained and folded at the corners. And sometimes, I just sit. Let the wind braid itself through my hair. There's no longer a need to prove anything. No boardrooms, no birthdays forgotten, no raised voices or withheld praise. Just breath. Ava moved away. My parents haven't called in months. They say silence is an absence, but I've learned it can also be peace. Some days, former trustees drop by. They ask for advice, not as an heir, as a leader. I always offer tea. And then I ask the only question Grandpa ever truly cared about. What are you trying to build that hasn't existed before? They never expect it, but they always answer. And I always listen. Because that's the legacy I carry now. Not the money, not the name, but the listening, the space. When I was younger, I wanted to be chosen. Now, I know I was never unchosen. Just unseen. But I see myself now. And as the morning wind moves over the lake, rippling soft waves toward the shore, I whisper words I once wrote in the margins of my childhood notebook. He didn't leave me money. He left me space to be. And that will echo longer than any inheritance ever could.